So there's a story that resonated with me as an angry teenager. And I know it resonated with a lot of kids that were like me as well. It's a story about social injustice, communism, war, and other heavy topics that every teenager finds themselves thinking about during peak rebellion and frustration with life. How to change the world, stir riots, anarchy, and burn everything down. And so maybe you've heard the story of Che Guevara. And according to Wikipedia, he was an Argentinian Marxist revolutionary, physician, author, guerrilla leader, diplomat, politician, and a military theorist. I knew of him because of his iconic image, which was plastered everywhere on t-shirts, banners, tote bags, posters, you name it. He was everywhere during my formative years whenever I'd go to a tianguis or the flea markets in Mexico. People saw his image as a symbol of anarchy and revolution, of hope for a place where class and social status doesn't matter. Everyone contributes, everyone eats. But beyond his controversial ideology in life, the one thing that intrigued me the most about his story wasn't his views or his politics, and it wasn't the fact that he was a doctor either. What was more intriguing than that was how he drove along the coast of South America, starting off in Buenos Aires, Argentina, all the way up the western coastline through Chile, crossing La Cordillera de los Andes, the Andes Mountains, which also span through Peru with stops in Lima, through Ecuador, Colombia, and ending in Caracas, Venezuela. A total of 8,000 kilometers, about 5,000 miles roughly. But this was all on the back of a motorcycle, and with a friend too. A 1939 500cc Norton Model 18 British motorcycle that wasn't the best choice for this kind of trip, but it was all they had. It certainly had the torque necessary to carry them both. It was rugged and sturdy enough to carry Che and his friend Alberto Granado throughout the continent. The bike was already 13 years old, but at the time, in the 50s, things weren't thrown away. Yeah, they were repaired and workshopped until they gave their very last ride. Parts could be improvised or rebuilt, and motorcycle engines were simple enough to repair with basic tools. So they rode La Poderosa through all terrain and weather, witnessing the beauty and pain of Latin America. I resonate with the story as a Mexican American, but more so as a freak for anything that moves as powerfully as a car or a motorcycle through roads that stretch as far as your heart will drive you. But this story isn't even about Che Guevara or politics at all. It's actually just about fun cars that you don't find in the US that are only exclusive to Latin America. Welcome to the Throttle Culture podcast, a space where design, history, and emotion meet horsepower. We celebrate the stories behind the builds and the people who see more than just a car. They see a connection. This week, we're taking a ride on La Poderosa almost 80 years after the iconic drive to see some of the models that haven't made it to the US. And for reasons involving chickens, government regulations, style preferences, and more. So let's start with the most known. Chevy, right? See, they designed similar models under different names to appeal to the Latin market. But there are similar stories of drivers seeking that thrill that muscle cars bring, cars that were built for that rebellious, loud, and unapologetic personality. When people in Brazil talk about classic Chevrolets, they're usually not thinking about the Nova. They're actually thinking about the Chevy Opala, a car that looks American but actually built on German Opel bones. The Opala was Chevrolet Brazil's hybrid creation, Opel record engineering underneath, and Chevy-inspired styling on top. A Brazilian-built inline 4 and 4.1 inline 6 engines that became legends on the street and at the drag strip. That's why it feels so different from a Nova. The Nova is an all-American X-body muscle, heavy, wide, V8 ready, while the Opala is lighter, more European, more balanced, and culturally tied to police fleets, taxis, and everyday Brazilian life. It's one of the best examples of how a global brand can create completely different icons depending on the market. Now let's talk about why the Chevrolet Montana, a compact pickup beloved in Mexico and South America, never made it to the US streets. The first thing people bring up is the infamous chicken tax, the 25% tariff on imported light trucks that's been around since the 1960s. Because the Montana is classified as a light pickup, bringing it into the US would make it dramatically more expensive than its affordable reputation allows. For GM, that defeats the entire purpose of the truck. Beyond the tariff, the Montana was engineered for Latin American roads, fuel standards, and work needs, lighter payloads, smaller engines, simpler construction. Adapting it to meet stricter U.S. crash requirements, emission standards, and consumer expectations for comfort would require major redesigns or an entirely different platform. Meanwhile, the U.S. market is obsessed with bigger trucks and SUVs, so GM has no real incentive to bring over a small, efficient, budget-friendly pickup. Personally, I think there is space here for compact fuel-sipping trucks, but unfortunately, the chicken tax and market priorities keep models like the Montana from ever getting their shot. In Mexico and much of Latin America, the Volkswagen Vento and eventually the Bora is a compact sedan that fills the space Americans know as the Jetta. But it's uniquely tailored for the region. Smaller engines, simpler trims, and an emphasis on affordability make it the perfect choice for city driving and daily commuting. Unlike the US Jetta, the Vento is often paired with alternative fuel options and smaller displacement engines to handle local fuel options and road conditions, making it one of the most practical, reliable, and accessible Volkswagen sedans in Latin America. It's essentially a Jetta cousin built for markets where efficiency and cost matter more than luxury or high-performance options. The Volkswagen Polo and its sedan counterpart, the Virtus, dominate the Latin American subcompact segment, especially in Brazil and Mexico. These cars are smaller, lighter, and tuned for urban streets, often featuring those same alternative fuel engines and manual transmissions, which are now rare in the US market. The hatchback Polo is a favorite for first-time buyers and city commuters, while the Virtus sedan offers extra space and practicality without increasing cost significantly. Together, they illustrate how Volkswagen adapts global platforms to fit local tastes, regulations, and economic realities, giving Latin American drivers that feel of modern and capable while staying affordable. Overall, the US mentality is that bigger is better, and the market calls for more spacious, SUV-style vehicles that offer comfort and luxuries that appeal to drivers who spend countless hours in their cars commuting to and from work. Design and even naming has to do with why certain international vehicles make it into our markets and others don't. So while there could be a demand for certain models we don't know about, there are other barriers to entry. So next time you're in Mexico or Brazil or anywhere else in Latin America, make sure to check out those other brands that the US doesn't carry, like Renault, Peugeot, Citroën, or even other variations of several Honda, Hyundai, and Kia models that were designed specifically for Latin America. All right, we've taken La Poderosa, which, by the way, is Spanish for the powerful one, all throughout South, Central, and North America to explore the other side of car culture, where efficiency and affordability dictate some of those decisions made when manufacturing vehicles in these other markets. And next time you're out car spotting and come across a unique import, share and tag me at Throttle Culture Pod, because I'd love to see more of these making their way here as a secondary used car market. If this story resonated with you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or comment on your favorite road trip stories that change the way you see the world. Until next time, stay driven.